my name is Ali. As well as my own performance, I've run various theatrical variety nights, something like a live art vaudeville. I co-ran Anatomy for over 10 years and have also done my own events. In the name of inclusion and finding new artists, the lineup of these is always selected from applications to an open call-out. Posted, 6 PM, Monday the 10th of October. The Bone House 2. Call for submissions. We're looking for new performances for a black cabaret. We want to make rituals of weird performance art in a way that is accessible and exciting to brave audiences. Mixing high-octane experimental music with thrilling and phantasmagorical fairy tales, The Bone House 2 seeks proposals from gore-drenched burlesque acts, bleak Buto clowns, bouffons, fire dancers juggling chainsaws, witch wave and dark trap horror electronics, shibari, algorithmically generated VJ summonings, and grotesque pantomimes. If you have an idea for a new piece of performance that you need help to realise, we have a limited budget to help you. We welcome applications or queries from underrepresented groups or those who feel traditional application processes are inaccessible to them. If you want an alternate submission, feel excluded by any language used, or would just benefit from an informal chat about your idea, do let us know. This is where it started. This was the first event I'd run since I lost my wife, and it was part of moving on. Instead, it was this that caused her to come back to haunt me. I've run quite a few open callouts for various events, so some of the dross that came in was of no surprise. There was the burlesque dancer who sent in a blank application form. There was the usual angry, misspelled rant along the lines of, "What pretentious nonsense is this? Get a life." My co-host and new partner, Kay, and I still read them all. Part of welcoming diverse performers means knowing people have differing approaches to the admin of applications. There was also the makings of a great night. Some pals with new performances, some people I'd heard of and I was excited were keen to take part, and some people I'd never come across before. Once we passed the deadline, we'd share thoughts and make a selection process. Sometimes there'd be difficult decisions to make. There was one that really intrigued me right from the start. The email was from a niasabell@hotmail.com.
Subject: the desire of the moth for the star at least saves her satiety. I would like to perform at your night. You can see a video of my previous show on YouTube. I have limited email out here. Is it possible for me to text you? Niasa Bell.
We're not always strict about filling in the application. It just helps focus people's proposals. The video was raw but exciting. The camera was constantly jostled as if in the midst of a mosh pit, although I couldn't see any other members of the audience. The audio was completely washed out by the YouTube compression, but still, it gave a vivid sense of the propulsive chants, the counterpoint of howling distortion, masks of burlap and knitted horn. It was just the sort of frenzied ritual that exists between performance art burlesques and raw, spitting black metal. Kay was unconvinced, and had some concerns about the noise levels we could reach in the venue without getting the plug pulled. There was something else she'd noticed in the video that I had not. In fact, I rewatched it several times trying to spot the detail, but it wasn't until I sat down with Kay who paused it. I am sure I had never seen this frame before. In that frozen moment, standing above the array of pedals, decks and broken guitars, Niasa Bell was bleeding. Around her head there bloomed a coral cloud of wasps. The blood did not look fake, and the orbiting blights were not dusts or specks of the crumbling ceiling panels. They were moving in a circle around Niasa Bell. I agreed that this was a concern, and that the video was too raw to really tell what the piece was. But something about the melody, however hidden in noise and feedback and clipping, gnawed upon me and stayed with me. I suggested we just clarify. Hi Niasa. Thank you for your email. Of course we'd love to talk about having you perform. 2 questions I'd love to ask about. Where are you travelling from? We have a limited budget, so knowing this helps us plan. Also, the video you sent looks like just what we want to stage, but we're a bit concerned about the wasps. Is that what you want to do with us? Thanks, Ali. I did not mention to Kay that when I watched the video on my computer, the wasp's presence was not visible. It was several days later that I received a text at just past 3 a.m.
It's Niasabel. The wasps don't need to be alive. That show was experiment. People were too distracted by being stung. Coming from Burnham, just me, even if there were other people in the band on stage in the video. They're gone.
As the number was withheld, I couldn't text her. I emailed her asking if it was easier to phone sometime. Another text, again, received just after 3 a.m.
I don't have signal here. I will soon.
We really needed to be finalising promo and tech requirements, so Kay and I needed to make a final decision. I wanted to take a gamble on Niasabel. Kay really didn't. It wasn't just the tricky risk assessment. We'd hosted extreme body art like bloodletting and sews being sewn up in a performer's body before. No, worse than that, Kay thought that Niasabel was an unreliable act. There was a bit of arguing, but I persuaded Kay to give Niasabel until the end of the month. There was always the death noise band from Methil we could book instead. It was pretty much the end of the month when the email came through.
From niasabel@hotmail.com. Subject, reply. The desire of the moth for the star at least saves her satiety. Hi, Ali. Apologies for the delay in getting back to you. I appreciate the offer of texting, but my internet is working again. Don't worry about the wasps. I'll come down a few days early to collect some. I like to use them from the local area. And don't worry about accommodation. I have a place in the woods. Niasabel.
There was an image attached, but when I tried to open it, it kept freezing up. I emailed back. Thanks for getting back to me. I was a bit confused by some of your texts. Can you just confirm what you'll be doing with the wasps? And the blood, is that real? Just thinking about the safety and biohazard contamination here. Any other tech specs you need? This time, she emailed back almost immediately.
From niasabel@hotmail.com. Subject, reply. The desire of the moth for the star at least saves her satiety. I didn't text you. Sorry for the confusion. The blood is pure, don't worry. And it won't go anywhere near the audience. Unless they really want it. Hope that is enough to know. Any more would spoil the show. I'll bring my decks, mixing desk and stones, but if you have a sturdy table, set of XLRs and a good sound system, definitely a subwoofer. That's all I need. I know it's probably a lot to ask, but if we could ask the audience not to wear any synthetic fibers to the show, that would really help. I appreciate the fee, but I'd like you to just donate it to the Wooden Trust. Please. See you on Fool's Day. Niasabel.
For immediate release, The Bone House 2, A Black Cabaret. It's time to put the fright back into April Fool's Day. Presenting a night of dark cabaret for fans of Tim Burton, David Lynch, Tool music videos and Silent Hill, The Bone House 2 brings weird experimental sounds and performances to you in an accessible and fun way. Featuring stop-motion short film program, Cinders and Ashes, a Thomas the Tank Engine Goes to Hell themed physical theatre piece, witchery noise rituals, funeral crooner backed by Doom Jazz Quartet, and spoken weird from Writer's Block. A text from Niasabel, from the same withheld number, again sent around 3 a.m.
This is not witchery. Not for fun.
I had to respond by email. Hi Nyasa, sorry if you didn't like the promo slant. I'm not a big fan of it myself. I'm embarrassed to even mention Tim Burton, but it's what we need to do to get some press attention. Trust me, once we have them in, it's your world to shape as you see fit. Looking forward to meeting you tomorrow. There was another confrontational email that came in shortly after the press release went live. It was from a no-reply address, the sender's name a jumble of V's and numbers. Subject, warning.
Do not book Nyasa Bell. If she plays her song, people will get hurt. The black drum must not be struck.
I ignored it. The panic set in while we were doing get-in and tech rehearsals. Nyasa Bell did not show up for her tech slot, and I didn't have a number to try and call her. Kay, of course, was all "I told you so," and that it was now too late to draft in carnivorous cryptogenesis to play instead. Nyasa Bell was to be our big finale. I tried to hide a feeling of sinking dread as I posted, "We're sold out. Thank you so much everyone, we're dead excited for you to see what we have for you. Doors open soon, so make sure you get in early for a good seat." It was difficult to stay focused. There were a lot of people there I hadn't seen since before. All of them said the same thing. They asked if I was okay, that they were sorry for my loss. Part of me worried that I wasn't ready for this. I definitely wasn't ready for what happened next. It was literally halfway through the show that she slunk backstage, a flight case bulging with wires and a bag of rocks under her arm. She didn't look like she did in the video, but the garb was similarly distinctive. Her face was cracked with face paint, maybe corpse paint, maybe a clown getup. It was hard to tell as the white and black were so old and looked like she'd been sleeping with the dawn for days that it was hard to tell. I spoke to her, half expecting an apology. She muttered constantly with rasping, indistinct consonants. The only thing she said directly to me came out like an accusatory bark. "I'm not Nyasa Bell. She sent for me to play for her so that she can come." I asked what she meant, but she was too focused on the crowd and the PA system. "This will do," she said before I got pulled away to deal with a problem at the door. Any bar has its share of trouble, and security are normally quite good at repelling people who've had too much to drink or who look like trouble. But this guy was something different. It was an old man in a frayed flat cap and cardigan. Not the sort you'd associate with the commotion he was causing, but in between deep, strained draws on his pipe, he furrowed his face in concentration. He was neither drunk nor taking any joy as they set up at the bottom of the stairs, just outside the venue where the smokers gather. I later came to think of it as a sort of rough music, the charivari, an old folk custom of making disapproval obvious or to drive someone out of the village by banging on pots and pans and shouting and basically making an absolute racket, an anti-serenade. This guy had loudspeakers. I'm not sure how he'd hauled them across town on the wobbly bike and down the stairs to the venue doors, but sat on a big, wooden sound clash system. There's no way the single bouncer could move him along. The old man pulled out a cassette player held together by duct tape and cable ties, which caught on the fibres of his fraying cardigan. Plugging it in via an aux cable that was knotted with twine and thorny vines with little dangling poppet baubles, he was ill-suited to the amplifier, which mangled whatever was on the tape into a wailing wall of noise. In between puffs of his pipe, he roared nonsense poetry into a homemade megaphone that fizzled with static. The door staff called police, but I had no idea how long they'd take to arrive. In the meantime, he completely drowned out the bands and performers. Not that they were still inside. Of course, the commotion had brought a lot of our audience and most of the acts outside to see what was happening. Probably a lot of them thought that it was part of the event. I went inside to apologise and make it clear that this was not part of the show. There were very few people left inside. Those that were trying to see out the single dust-encrusted window behind the sound desk. There was little for me to do except wait. The night was ruined. The woman who said she wasn't the Asabel came to me with none of the surly mutterings from before and asked me, clearly, if she could still play. The PA was off and there was a racket outside, but it wasn't going to make anything worse. I said sure. She had already set up on stage more equipment than could possibly have fit in her flight case. Drums spread across the whole stage had a similar look to the man's speakers outside, horns and branches and tiny bells. She cast a black dust across the drum skins which kicked and whirled while she pounded with a fury completely disregarding any rhythm. Her black metal grimace carried not an ounce of humour as she glared out the window to where the man blasted his poems, as if trying to drown him out. She didn't stand a chance. The only upper hand she took was when the man turned his tape over or rewound it. When it was just his shouting into the megaphone's crackling buzz, her pounding became audible. It was as if the rest of the world was non-existent. The two of them stared each other down with determined hate even through the venue's wall, and tried to blast each other away with indistinct racket. I am not sure where the fire started. Probably it sparked from some of the shoddy wiring in the speakers, or her black drum dust catching the candles lit on some of the tables. Luckily, as most of the people were already outside, it was easy to evacuate and clear the space. It was hard to call out over the din, but Kay and I did a quick shout into the toilets to make sure everyone was out. I grabbed my backpack and ran, making sure Kay was in front of me. The flame seemed to flicker from no definite point. Under the falling plaster, I was sure some sparks floated in the air. By the time the police and fire engines arrived, we were all stood outside, watching the venue burn down. The man was gone, and there was no sign of the drummer woman, who was not Asabel. The next day, I received another email from that same no-reply address. Subject: warning.
I told you, you didn't listen. I stopped her this time, but don't know if I can again. The black drum has been struck.
Of course I forwarded it to the police, but I never heard back. I became convinced that there must be more clues in the video that Asabel had originally sent us. Would I recognise the woman as one of the other performers? Would that man show up? Maybe he was a disgruntled former member of the band. The video had been shakily handheld and low resolution, but it came through clear. That wasn't what shocked me. The venue was different. This was taken, impossibly, at our show. I even saw myself walking around the crowd before standing up to introduce Asabel. I watched a performance that never happened. There was no mistaking Asabel. She wore a similar garb to her acolyte who had come to the actual show, but stood with such magnificent presence, transfixing even through the computer screen. On the same gnarled drums spitting black dust with every hit, Asabel launched into a set of industrial noise ritual exactly like I'd hoped it would be. The howling, screeching wind of her voice over ghostly wails of feedback and distorted synth stabs was intense and baroque. While the walls of sound folded in on themselves, she plucked a large, plump wasp from the air and bound it to the record player's arm with thick, hand-wound twine. Towards the end of the video, Asabel heaved a large hagstone onto her hand-cranked turntable, dipped a finger in a bowl of blood, and drew a spiral of grooves around the stone's surface. When she lowered the wasp stylus down to play, the camera lurched, the sound glitched, and the fire started. Amongst the panic of people running and shouting, the falling plaster, and even myself and Kay trying to get people out, I saw a ghost image superimposed of the show as it actually was, the lone drummer beating back the noise with her own frenzy. In the final moments of that recording, I saw the woman who was not Asabel look directly at the camera, at me. She lifted a cassette tape from the top of her drum, somehow not pummeled into shards. She slipped it into a backpack before the film cut out. That was my backpack. I even saw in the video's final moments myself grab it as I ran from the venue. None of this was on the YouTube video the last time I'd watched it, and it was definitely the same link. Sure enough, in the front pocket of my backpack there was now a cassette tape. When I played it, I heard a beautiful, clear song. It was a song that no one else could have known, a voice I never thought I'd hear again. It was after I played this tape that I heard the footsteps and caught a whiff of her perfume. I heard my dead wife moving about in the flat. I know it is the cassette that called her. It's like the song on it opened a door. I'm sure she's calling out to me, wordlessly, desperate to be fed, to be summoned more completely. When I play this song, my dead wife comes to my house. I know she's there. I need to see her. I need to open the door wider. I need more tapes. Caledonian Gothic presents 6 songs folk historians don't want you to hear. This melody will shock you. Written and produced by Maloney. Sound design and audio mix by Gareth. Theme tune by Devereux of Tin Can Audio. Also featuring the voices of Rhiannon Grist, Allison, Josh Holton, Sandra Spighel, Bram Gieben and Gavin Inglis. Broadcast signal intrusion by Alistair Rennie. Original development was done with funding and support from Creative Scotland and Playwrights Studio Scotland. See the show notes for further info, including links to transcripts. Please do like, share, review, and let us know what you thought. Completely and proudly human-made. Thank you for listening.